Brodes Media.
That was a good character adversity hit on the road against a team that we may not look at as a championship caliber squad, no matter where they are in the Eastern Conference. But it's a good opponent, a squad that brings you fight, it brings you edge, and you're on the road. And I thought that there were a lot of good points in the fourth quarter that stood out to me, to the point where I jotted all of them down. And I got you. You lose the lead, you get the lead. You lose the lead, you get the lead. An offensive rebound makes you upset, and I totally understand. But there was a lot that was done in a good way in that fourth that I don't want to downplay, just because from an overall standpoint, it wasn't as pretty and it wasn't as beautiful as maybe you would have liked from the eyes. This team right now is going through a grind, and it has to be a bear down type of moment that gets you feeling good again after the disappointment that happened against the Brooklyn Nets, and some of the efforts we've seen and some of the outcomes we've seen since then, unacceptable. So even if it isn't a beautiful brand and it gets a bit murky and you're going back and forth, welcome to the NBA against a good team. You're playing a team that has talent. Garland, Kevin Love made some shots. They have a respected squad, especially when you're not feeling your greatest. I'll take this as a positive, and I love it. So here's the fourth quarter. I mean, I don't love it. I prefer a blowout. But in terms of dialing in what they did late, and buckets were made that were important to me and says a lot about some of the players coming up in those moments, that matters to me. We understand the bench sucks. The bench is bad, and that's why when I asked the question, could they win a championship if their starters execute, even with a poor bench, if you work the rotations properly? And I think we're finding out how much more difficult it is than when you just stated, because Matisse Thybulle once again makes me want to blow my brains out when I witness him. All the stupid ass fouls. On top of that, miss layup, miss layup, miss layup, miss layup, miss wide open 3-point look. He did hit one, but am I really supposed to go standing ovation now for one? When you have to defend Matisse Thybulle so much to the point where when one 3-pointer is made, you lose. I think about bragging about one 3-pointer in a basketball game. This is what drives me crazy. And then he'll come back the next night, and he'll play the next game, and he'll have 9 billion steals against Jokic, and he'll have a big-time block. But this crushes your soul when you are trying to play offense in the NBA. This is problematic, and it's causing you so many problems, especially when your alternatives stink. Think about Isaiah Joe getting run in the fourth quarter. Now, Doc Rivers never gives him a real chance to ever feel himself out there and get into some sort of flow, which is definitely an issue, a very odd time. And I find it hilarious. Doc Rivers went back and forth with Keith Pompey again tonight during the post-game show. It wasn't as outrageous as we heard in the past. It wasn't as monstrous as we've seen in other situations play out when he gets bothered by being pushed a bit. But when they were trying to figure out, Keith Pompey specifically, about the rotation, I don't understand, says Doc. I don't understand why everyone cares. Do people care about Golden State? Do people talk about their rotation? Here we go again. Whenever someone brings up legitimate conversation and pushback on you, Doc, here goes the walls. You know that there are fans aggravated about your rotations. Now, I'm on the record, and the reason why this kind of transitioned the way that it did, saying that what are your options other than Matisse Thybulle? Isaiah Joe isn't very good. Maybe better, but he's not very good, right? And obviously Matisse is a starter. I'm just saying Danny Green, he's a shell of himself at this point. Niang's starting to get colder. He went through his hot stretch, but now he's coming back down to reality a little bit. Furkan Korkmaz is horrendous. Shake Milton is what he is. He's just a guy that some nights shows you some wow to it, and then other nights just becomes basically nobody and irrelevant when he gets his number called. So I don't know what Doc Rivers is supposed to do throughout these times, but at the end of the day, Doc Rivers, hearing it and hearing reasonable questions being asked, the fact that he reacts as strongly as he does, it just bothers me because it's someone who is showing signs of weakness. Doc Rivers has done it a billion times so far here in Philadelphia, where it's a track record, and I know that's probably not one of the bigger takeaways throughout what we witnessed tonight, but maybe I'm wrong. Maybe there are some others talking about it the same way I did, but when I caught it, my eyebrows started to raise. I'm writing my notes, getting ready for the show as Doc Rivers is talking on NBC Sports Philadelphia on the post-game show, and I'm just laughing, shaking my head. I mean, what is it with this clown? What is it with this guy? I'm not the biggest Doc Rivers fan in the world, as you can tell, but at the same time, I respectfully understand that you want to scream for other. Well, DeAndre Jordan stinks. Put in Bassey. Okay, if you want to put in Bassey, I'm not going to complain. But putting in Charles Bassey isn't the difference in blowing out basketball teams or not. You need some guys that you can rely on to give you 7 points off the bench, 8 points off the. Is there anyone on this bench right now that you can ask for 8 points a night that you could rely on? Absolutely not. Danny Green goes 0 for 5 on some nights. DeAndre Jordan is what he is. He's a stiff, and he doesn't have anything left. Shake Milton, okay, maybe on a night, but it's not consistent enough where if I said put your life on it, put your life on it that he gets 8 points. I don't want to do that to anybody. I don't even want to put anyone in that circumstance, so I apologize. But that's how devastating it is. Let's get to this fourth quarter stretch of good plays that I witnessed. Maxey hit a 3, not the one we're thinking of, not that major splash that was awesome. The balls on this guy, the testicles on this kid. He also had that pump fake from 3 and then drive to the lane as he's flying through the air. Some of us like to call that Air Maxey. He might get his own shoe, the Maxey 1, the Maxey 11s, the Maxey 6s, just like we've seen with Jordan. This kid's flying out there. But other than the one that we're all thinking about, there was a previous 3 to tie the basketball game up that was very, very important to the win. Embiid gets an and one on a pump fake, gets the defender up. He's basically on one leg. And not to get too sidetracked, but how about when he got the ball from basically around the free throw line? There's a couple defenders on his way. He loses the ball. He picks it up. He runs backwards to the three-point line and sets his feet to drill it. And I love that when you go back and watch that play, watch the way that he squared up his body. He set his feet before taking that shot. Sensational. But I loved Embiid's and one, getting the defenders up in the air. Embiid fouled, rolling to the basket. So we're looking at a little bit of a two-man game and him going downhill, which I think is going to be a massive improvement to other styles of offense that we've seen. There's something he said about that. I don't know how you stop that. Let's keep going. Let that keep going. Let him and Harden play that two-man game, utilize the screen, read the defense properly, and get it to him while he's trucking away down full speed the way that he does. Niang hit a corner 3. Great defense by Tobias Harris on a possession that led the Cavaliers down a path of taking a contested 3 that really wasn't in rhythm whatsoever. The Sixers end up getting the basketball in that fourth quarter a little bit later on, gets an O board. Harden drives to take the lead. Embiid and Harden another two-man game, and then Maxey for 3 with 116. But there's a big area here that I definitely want to emphasize afterwards. It became a free throw game, and James Harden knocking down 2 sets of free throws, game on the line. Not only that, so did Maxey. One of your guards, actually, I should say both of your guards, I was going to reference and target Tyrese Maxey specifically because he's young, games on the line, hostile environment. There were moments where the crowd got loud and it seemed they were taking over and the momentum completely shifted out of the Sixers' way. You saw that second half, right? Or that second quarter bleeding into the second half. Sixers 40-plus points. I'm not telling you it was all perfect, but you put up 40. You put up 30-plus. You look at these quarters and the way their offense was playing, and their defense in transition has murdered them as of late. That was different tonight, too. It wasn't as if I watched Cleveland run up and down the floor on you and make passes in lanes where nobody's getting back and there's no hustle and there's no effort. Actually, it's crazy because in the beginning of the game, I was wondering, why is Joel Embiid out there? Because my personal opinion, he wouldn't have played against Orlando. So then the second half of the back-to-back with not Utah, but with Denver, that he would have been fresh there. He had to get yanked out of that game at one point, and Doc Rivers admitted afterwards that Joel Embiid said that he was tired and he was fatigued, so he needed a moment to breathe. He needed a breather. I would have sat him against Orlando, even though it was clear they needed him to win that basketball game. If I'm thinking of the long term of the big man, happy birthday, Joel, by the way. Not a bad day at the office for your birthday. 35, 17, 5 assists. Outrageous. Just another day of clocking. Let me clock in real quick, babe. I'll be back in about 3 hours. I mean, really, this dude's ridiculous. Knowing how his body was, though, entering the night, I wouldn't have played him, but he was out there, and he definitely had some good footwork early on. Soft touch around the rim. Soft touch with that mid-range jumper, too. Good footwork, kind of creating his spot and squaring up when using that Olajuwon-like moves. Bucket after bucket, missing only one field goal attempt in that first frame. Grooving into the second half. When you look at the box score, he's got 20. Casual. Good for him. Now, with James Harden, I thought a lot of those possessions that I'm raving about, it mattered that he had the ball in his hands and he calmly ran the offense. With that said, you got to criticize how unworthy he is right now of shooting the damn rock, of being aggressive, of playing James Harden. Everyone was afraid that he'd be too selfish. I'm watching a guy right now where it seems to be the complete opposite, which is this guy is not selfish enough, right? Looking to pass to other people always. And I got it. You're a point guard. That's the mindset of a point guard. Let's get my teammates going and let's see if we can explode for any sort of offense, get some other players involved in some good looks and create havoc by driving to the lane, getting defenders to swarm on you, kick it out to a wide open Green or a wide open bench player, anybody else out there with you. But at times, I feel that he's drawing so much attention to that in his brain that it is impacting maybe when I would like to live and die with the James Harden attempt, with the James Harden shot, where right now it's so team heavy. When is it now going to be, yo, James, look, fellas, all right, I understand that you want to be a team player. And I'm sure over the years, you have transitioned more into thinking about teammates. That's why when you see the assist numbers, 11 assists, 14 assists, 12 assists, this is no joke. That's a very difficult task to have. Double-digit assists basically every single night with him. But he gives you, what, 21 points or so? I like more of that 26, 27, 28. Even then, I would still like him to be more aggressive on some of those nights too. But if you're more in that 26, 27, 28 with 11 assists, that's probably where I'm more excited about. And keep in mind, I just mentioned late game free throws, which I'm not downplaying. That matters to winning basketball games. But if you subtract that from the point total, it's 17. I need him to put his downwards hat on. What does that even mean? I have no idea. I just want him to be more of an aggressive dude. Let's go, James. Let's go.
These past couple of games have raised up a couple questions with me. I'm trying not to overreact too much, but just seeing how poorly this bench has played. I think I just saw a stat that was like the last 3 games we've been outscored on the bench 140 to 46. Now, I'm aware that the bench role is going to minimize greatly in the playoffs and, maybe seeing like 8, 6 minutes, somewhere in that line, starters getting most of the role. But, when it comes to like this regular season and trying to like pick up these games, does it concern you at all to see, this lack of production? Do you think it's permanent? Do you think it's something that we can see improved? And do you think this is something that we need to address more in the off season?
Definitely probably offseason. Thanks, Kyle. That's where you're going to get the results that you're looking for in the response that we desperately need. Is it raising more concern? Absolutely. I would be sugarcoating it if I pretended it didn't matter at all, where now it's starting to show itself. Now, just like with Niang, when he was super hot and drilling all threes, I tried to calm everybody down because there were so many that wanted to throw him into the starting rotation and bench Tobias Harris. But I kept claiming that he's not this, okay? He's not this. He won't keep this up forever. He'll go back to the norm. And I feel with this bench, while Niang is my example of someone who was red hot, scorching, and just drilling everything, this bench right now is the complete opposite, which is it's so devastating and it's so awful and it's so hard to watch. Where are they this bad? Are they a tick above this, really? And they'll go back to the norm, which is a little bit better than this. Not that that's going to be enough. I still think that that might be what hinders them, and it might be what stops them from going as far as we would like. But just like Niang was unbelievable, is this the bench on a run of unbelievably pathetic, where it'll even itself out a bit as we see Niang cool off? Will we see maybe 4 games where the bench is not getting outscored as much, they're not getting as dominated as much, and then it comes full circle a little bit on who your team is? Now, if you look at some of the minutes, 42 minutes, 39 minutes, 38 minutes. When you look through the starters and the box score, James Harden played 42. I thought that there was an interesting question asked during the broadcast about it at the end when they do that crossover between Amy Fadul in the studio and the coach and Ala and Kate Scott. And something was brought up about the minutes. And, do you look at that as possibly Doc Rivers realizing, I don't know what to do. I don't have many options available for me. So I'm going to have to nudge them, keep going. I got to have you here. Keep going. You're not coming out. Keep going. And I'd be lying if I said I would feel like, no. Did that even make sense? I have no idea. What I was trying to say was I'd be lying to you if I said, no, there's no correlation, because I think there is a correlation. This is what minutes are going to have to be like in the playoffs.